This might be one of the most weirdest and craziest ideas to come to cinemas this year. Not a lot of people are talking about this. It has very little buzz, but I did check it out and I wanted to let you guys know if this film is worth a watch. So stick around and let's talk about it. Sasquatch Sunset takes place in the misty forests of North America. A family of Sasquatches, possibly the last of their kind, embark on an absurdist, epic, hilarious, and ultimate journey over the course of 1 year. These shaggy and noble giants fight for survival as they find themselves on a collision course with the ever-changing world around them. The film stars Riley Keough, Jesse Eisenberg, Nathan Zellner, and Christophe Zajac-Denek, and was directed by David Zellner and Nathan Zellner, and I've never seen any of their films before. Going into Sasquatch Sunset, every time I went to the theater, this trailer always played, and I love to hear the crowd reactions, because you would get somebody that would be like, that looks really weird, I'm not going to check that film out. Or then I would get somebody that would be like, that movie looks stupid as shit, I ain't going to go check that film out. And a lot of the wide audience, I could understand why they would pass on this film, but I do think that if you've been watching a lot of the same films lately, I implore you to at least give this film a chance. If you're not going to check it out in a theater, at least check it out on streaming, because it is a different movie, and I do think at times it does have some things to actually say, and it is kind of a funny film, to be honest. Now, you have 4 Sasquatches. They are in the middle of the forest in Northern California. It's the 80s, and they are just walking through the forest. They discover a lot of things. They discover a lot of animals, and there's some funny parts with the animals. For instance, one of them, they get really curious when they see a turtle and they've never seen a turtle before. They pick it up and the turtle actually starts to try to eat its tongue. And it's just funny little things like that throughout the film. Some people are going to be really turned off when I say this, but there is no dialogue in this film. And normally I'm against that. I really like dialogue in my films to actually carry the story. All they do here is have actual grunting noises. Now, even though they have those grunting noises, a lot of this film really relies on their facial expressions and a lot of their emotions throughout the film. You have the alpha male, you have the female, you have another male, and then you also have a baby boy Sasquatch as well. And a lot of this film really relies on you just observing their daily habits. In their habitat, they are looking for food, and a lot of times when they're eating different kinds of food, they can actually get sick and vomit, and they don't know that because they don't know any better. A lot of stuff they just discover as time really goes on, and some things they're actually threatened by. There's one scene where they actually see a road for the first time, and they just have to mark their territory. So you see little gross, little disgusting things like that, which I think for some, if you're not really into that kind of thing, or you feel kind of grossed out by a lot of body fluids, because there is kind of a lot of different body fluids in here that could freak out some of the casual viewers that really don't like that. So I will caution you if you really aren't into that. But a lot of times in this film, it really reminded me of in The Croods, where you have Grug played by Nicolas Cage, where if you remember in that film, he didn't want his family to go out and explore and get into trouble. He always wanted them to stay into the cave. Now, these Sasquatches, they're always exploring. They see certain things, and they can get themselves into dangerous situations. So that really reminded me of The Croods in that aspect. I felt like there were certain things in here where you're really just studying their behavior. And if you like characters where you can really study of certain things that they're actually doing, I think you can really get into this film. But I also think even though there is no dialogue in this film, I think you can really connect the dots to a lot of things that they're actually saying in this film. Now, there were some things that didn't quite connect all the way for me, and they didn't really finish the story in that aspect. For instance, there is a part in this film where you see red X's on the trees in the forest. So obviously there's something going on where they're going to actually destroy the forest, and we never really get a lot more context of that. We see a few things in this film that really shows where the forest could possibly be destroyed, and maybe some other things could be built in those places, but they never really go too much into that. And towards the end of the film, how it actually ends up, I wasn't really a fan of the ending, because I really felt by the time the film actually ended, I felt, where do our characters actually go from here? Don't expect a backstory for these Sasquatches, though. They don't go into details of how they actually got in this forest. They don't really say, if they're their last of their breed or kind. We know that they are looking for other Sasquatches that look like them, because there are parts in this film where they show them beating on these trees on certain times of the day, and they start making making these calls in which they think that the other Sasquatches will hear them and they will appear. So you know that they think that there's other species out there that look like them, but you don't really discover a lot about how they actually got into this forest. And really, to me, I didn't even know this until after I read it here on Wikipedia, but I had no idea this was in North America, and I honestly didn't know the time zone until there's a certain discovery that the Sasquatches make a little bit around 70 to 80 minutes of the film. They discover something, I'm like, okay, I get what year we're in now. That makes sense. And during that scene too, obviously this is the first time that they actually have discovered that, so they get really spooked when they actually see that. And a lot of times throughout this film, they are spooked with a lot of new things. I mean, if you're discovering stuff that you've never seen before, you're only out in the woods and you're only eating and just living your day-to-day life, then yeah, how would you actually know certain things actually exist? So that's where this film is very interesting, because you're just studying characters that really just don't know a lot of things that are actually going in the outside world. So when you discover something new, of course you feel threatened. Overall camera work definitely worked. There's definitely a lot of wide shots. It's a lot of right to left kind of shots, and they do a really good job of capturing the expressions and just the feelings that these Sasquatches are actually having. It had just enough humor, although I do say that I don't recommend this film for everybody, and I do caution those, like I said, that don't like body fluids and some small graphic parts, though I will say with one of the graphic parts, there is this one CGI part, and if you watch this film, you'll know what I'm talking about, where they show this shot of one of the Sasquatches, and I was like, this is kind of laughable. I don't know, it felt a little bit low budget, and that's to be expected. It's just one of those films where it is a little bit lower budget, and they don't have the funds to really have a full-on, a really good-looking character, I will say. I will leave it at that to avoid spoilers. But overall, I think this film is worth a watch. I would give it a 3 out of 5. It's definitely a very unique film. I had laughs throughout. I definitely enjoyed the observing of something a little bit different, though I will say that the story, it lacks a little bit, so it definitely holds it back. Other than the observing of the Sasquatches and just some of the dangers that they actually face and some of the behavior issues that they have when they see certain things for the first time, which obviously is interesting. Beyond that, though, it doesn't have a lot of meat on the bones as far as a full narrative, and I can understand that if you're looking for a full narrative with this story, you're going to feel a little bit disappointed. So on that front, it's a little bit disappointing from that standpoint. But overall, I enjoyed it for what it was. However, I want to hear from you guys. What did you guys think about Sasquatch Sunset? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you just think it was kind of meh? And if you haven't checked it out, are you going to check it out when it comes to VOD or streaming? Leave any and all comments down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.